Well, here I am again, and here we go again talking basketball. It's the early 2000s. I've arrived in Quakenbrück. As I said earlier, it's been a really, really great experience in that I found out that I've got just the absolute total support and confidence from the people that are responsible for the entire basketball scene in Quakenbrück. It began with Gunter Coleman and his wife, and they put me in touch with Theo Folu and Garing over in his business, and they pretty much took care of anything that I needed. I also had the assistance from the Artland Dragons office. I can't leave out Julia Fisher, and later Marco Bean, so I'll talk about in depth when we get to the pro portion of this. But like I said, we're going to break it down, the Quakenbrück experience, into three different sections. One being the youth program, boys and girls, then the women's program, and then the Artland Dragons pro team. We'll start with the youth program. As I said, I came in with some concepts that I had developed, and I also had learned from experience that you don't come in and just try to clean house right from go and ignore was there when you first got there. There was some resistance when I first got there because, as I said, people had been doing things a certain way for the longest time, and it's not good to just come in and start stepping on people's feet right off the bat. So I sort of took a back seat and I watched and waited to see what was going on. I started off with the men's second team, but since we're talking about the youth program, we'll get to that later. But the kids programs, there were a number of teams, all with different coaches, all with different styles and different concepts. And this is where I guess I started rubbing people the wrong way, because I had a philosophy, my experience, things that I'd watched. There are so many clubs where, you're under 12s, you're under 14s, you're under 16s, you're under 18s. They all have different coaches, and each coach has his own philosophy, his own way of doing things. Do they play man? Do they play zone? Do they want the guard shooting all the time? Do they want to go to the big men? Do they want to run a motion offense? Do they want to run a set offense? There's so many variables that a lot of people don't even know about. Well, I felt that to be successful and have a successful program, it would be good if my under 12s, my under 14s, the under 16s, the under 18s, and then eventually the men's team, they all did the same thing. They all ran the same offenses, learned their skills the same way. This is how we take our layups. This is how we set up to shoot. This is how we get the ball down the floor. This is how we play defense. And that way it would be easier for your under 12s to move into the under 14s, up to the under 16s and whatever, and you had a continual line going. Well, that was my philosophy, and it didn't go over real big, and I understood that, but gradually I worked my way in, and they accepted it because it worked. I had people that would complain, like, I remember one funny situation, like, I started this thing that we call the in-house league, because in Europe, just like here, when the basketball season ends, the larger portion of kids stop playing basketball. They'll play soccer, they'll play tennis, baseball, whatever, and they don't play basketball again until next September or October, real basketball with real practices and stuff. And the in-house league was a way for me to keep things going, and also to figure out, well, which of the under 12s should move on to the best under 14 team and run up the line. And the in-house league was a way to get everybody playing real games. We'd make teams up from all the kids in the club, pick the team, try and keep the teams equal, and let them play competitively throughout the year. And that turned out to be a lot of fun also. But it also gave me a chance to see which kids I should promote to the next teams and which kids should stay down, and because they weren't ready yet, which kids were working hard, etc. And it was also a way for me during the in-house league. We'd have a practice, and then we'd play our games on the weekends. And the way it turned out, I recall, and this is what makes the situation weird, we had a whole bunch of kids one year in the under 14 group. I mean, more than we could handle. And I talked to the kids and to their parents about, well, if I take the best 10 or 12 kids and put them on the number 1 under 14 team, yeah, they win all their games, and the other team doesn't do so well. And at the same time, the kids that are on that team, if you're the number 7, 8, 9 kid on the under 14 1, you don't get to play a whole lot because you're going to play your starters and your top 2 subs. Well, I talked to the kids about, well, what do you think about we split that talent? If you're the 6th best kid or the 7th best kid and you're really good on the under 14 1, if you play on the under 14 2, you could start. And instead of playing 8 minutes a game on the first team, you could play almost the whole game on the second team and give you 2 equal teams. And then later, when we come to the under 16, we've got 18 kids who've been well developed with lots of playing time. Well, that was a concept that I wanted to try. And I remember some parents got really, really pissed because they felt that their kids should be playing on the 1 team. They didn't understand the concept. Would you rather sit on the bench on the number 1 team or play a lot on the number 2 team and get better? Much like when I was coaching in college at Asheville, I lost 2 really, really good kids to UConn back when they were like winning undefeated seasons. And I recruited a kid for 2 years. And I thought I had him. And then like 2 days before the letters of intent go out, the kid calls me and says, I got a call yesterday from Gino Ariema. Duh. Okay, so they go to play at UConn and sit on the bench when they could have played with me and been a star. But that's something that the kids and the parents have to work out on their own. Whatever they wanted to do, that was their business. I could live with it. At any rate, that change actually was the time when the people in Quakenbrück, the parents and the other administrators there saw that, well, maybe this concept wasn't such a bad idea. Gave me a chance to work on my Princeton offense, which I thought that was the other concept that I had. Most of the programs that I used from my better teams, like my men's teams, my women's teams, I had actually tried them out on the under 12s, on the under 14s, on the under 16s. And each time I'd see how it worked and I'd tweak it a little bit and move it to the next team. See how it worked, tweak it, move it to the next team. By the time it got to one of my men's or women's teams, it was a tested system that worked well. And like I said, it also gave me the chance to let kids move freely up and down the chain, and it was pretty good. I had some problems with, there were some parents. I had this thing about if you don't do well in school, you can't play on my teams. And they had some parents that got upset about that. You know, like, what right do you have to say that the kid can't? I said, well, look, I'm not saying that he can't play. I'm just saying if he wants to play on this team, he has to have grades in school also. Because these other kids, they're going to do well. Some I'm going to send to college in the States or high school in the States. If they don't have the grades, they can't go. So there's no point in them being out here. Let them go play someplace else or just play in the in-house league. Anyway, I don't want to give you a whole history here, but like I said, I had some things that were unique to my system, and it took a while, but it eventually took hold and it did well. I had some hard heads. I remember Basti was one. He and I didn't get along at first, but he gave himself and gave me an opportunity to work with him, and he turned out to be a pretty good player. I sent him to school in the States. He ended up actually going to a military academy also, which for Basti was a big move. Then he came back and he played Bundesliga for quite some time. We already talked about Big Al, but we'll get back to Alex later. Girls, Christina Ravens, there were more. Stefan Müller, Daniel Kraus, who also went to the States. Andreas Brumer, we called the Brew. Mokel. There were just a whole big bunch of Timo Hermes was one of the better point guards that I've ever had. His brother Henning also went to the States. It was, again, I always forget the Doinkster, Florian Doink, another good young player who eventually made it to the Heartland Dragons team. It was just a great environment to work with young players who were willing to listen and do what was asked of them, and that's what made it fun. Like I said, I'll have pictures of all of those guys as they were very little. You might not even recognize some of them. On the girls' side, aside from Christina Gravenstetter, Nayla Olkers, Ellen Miller, Evelyn Duda. It goes on and on. Maybe you'll recognize some of them from the pictures, or tell them that their pictures are there, and let them know that I appreciated their being there because they made the program what it was. That's it.